People gathered around the flashing lights, recording with their phones, whispering half-truths. Nobody really knew what had happened, only that a teenage girl stood trembling, her hands raised, confusion flooding her face. Her name was Amara. She was deaf. The words shouted at her blurred into silence, but fear. She felt that loud and clear. The officers didn't understand her gestures. They thought she was resisting. And that's where everything began, not with anger, but with misunderstanding. Her father, Elijah, was miles away, unaware that this moment would change his life, his community, and even his country. When Elijah arrived at the precinct, his heart was a storm. Amara sat alone behind glass, tears marking the only soundless language she knew. She didn't do anything, Elijah said softly, his voice shaking. But no one seemed to care. They saw reports, rules, and procedures, not people. That night, Elijah made a promise to himself: this would not end in silence. Not again. His daughter had lived her life misunderstood, but he would make the world listen now. Elijah started by learning everything he could about how the system worked, and how it failed people like Amara. He found other families who faced the same pain. Parents who cried in silence because no one believed their children. Slowly, he began recording their stories, sharing them online, speaking at town meetings, showing what misunderstanding costs. His voice trembled at first. But soon, people began to listen. The video of Amara's arrest spread across the internet. Not because of outrage, but because of her father's calm, powerful words. My daughter is not a headline. She's a child who couldn't hear what was shouted at her. Those words pierced hearts across the country. Journalists called. Lawyers volunteered. Even officers reached out, apologizing for what they didn't understand. Elijah didn't want revenge. He wanted change. Amara began healing too. She started drawing again, pages filled with bright colors and quiet strength. Her art spoke the words she couldn't. One of her drawings, a pair of hands signing love inside a police badge, went viral. It became a symbol of hope, and that's when Elijah knew this wasn't just his fight anymore. It belonged to every unheard voice. The mayor invited Elijah to a meeting. He expected it to be symbolic, but instead, they asked him for help. Teach us, they said. Show us what we missed. So Elijah began working with officers, teaching them basic sign language, empathy, and awareness. At first, many were skeptical. But when Amara walked into the training one day and signed, "Thank you for listening," the room went silent. Something changed in their hearts that day. Not everyone approved. Some people said Elijah was too forgiving. Others said it wouldn't matter. But Elijah believed that change begins when one person chooses compassion over anger. He reminded everyone that misunderstanding had caused the pain, understanding would heal it. Slowly, precincts across the state began adopting his training. The silent revolution had begun. Months later, Amara stood on a stage at a national conference, signing her speech as her father voiced it aloud. "Deafness isn't silence," she said. "It's just another way of listening." The audience rose to their feet in tears. Reporters called it one of the most emotional moments of the year. But for Elijah, it was simpler. It was the sound of justice finally being heard. A year later, new laws were passed requiring every police officer to receive communication training for the deaf and disabled. Elijah and Amara sat together, watching the news, tears glistening in their eyes. They didn't win through anger. They won through love, patience, and the courage to speak, even in silence. Today, a plaque hangs outside that same precinct. It reads, "In memory of those unheard, may we always listen before we act." Every morning, officers walk past it. Some pause. Some smile. And somewhere, Amara is drawing another picture, this one of a world finally learning to listen. And that's how one father's heartbreak became a nation's lesson, that silence doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes, it's just waiting for someone to truly hear.